Welcome everyone to a clash of generations between Marc Andria Maurizzi with the white pieces and Vishy Anand. Marc Andria born in 2007, Vishy Anand born in 1969. The youngster is the former World Junior Champion in 2023. He became a GM at the age of just 14 years. While Vishy Anand, of course, the legend, 5-time world champion, plays his bishop to c5. This is not a common way to play the Ruy Lopez with knight on c3. But Anand is well prepared. He puts his bishop on c5, bishop takes, pawn takes, and he pushes his pawn to d3. Now the e5 pawn needs to be taken care of, and Vishy plays his queen to e7. Bishop comes out to e3. And now, do we take it or do we go back to d6? Both are possible, and I'm sure Vishy is considering both of them. His experience in these structures is huge. He goes bishop d7, a move that is just meant to finish his development, and also castles here. We have a small imbalance in the position. The queen is coming out here. The knight could jump in with the rook on the open file. This could become something. Let's see how Vishy deals with it. He brings his rook to e8. The time control here is 5 minutes plus 3 seconds increment. Pawn comes to a4. Just gaining space on the queen side. This is a general way to play here. Knight goes to g4. Well, one idea could be that he's preparing f5. The other could be that he's just playing his pawn to f6. He plays his knight back to h6. And you can see Marc Andria showing there, I don't understand this maneuver at all. The boy is quite expressive there. He now tries to focus in. Well, one plan now could be knight h4, g4, and then try to clamp on the f5 square. He pushes his pawn to a5, just clamping down the queen side structure. The position is roundabout even, but I think white has the slightly more comfortable position here. Vishy goes f6. He may want to reroute his knight this way, or he may want to play his bishop to e6. So just a calm move. And generally when you play f6, knight h4 becomes a very normal move, looking at these squares. Let's see what Marc Andria does here. He plays, he's going to move his c3 knight. I also like how he has just kept his bag with him, not really removed it. Vishy, by the way, just fresh from his victory at Lyon Masters, has gone to Corsica here to play this Blitz tournament. And it's a 9-round event. Knight goes to e2. And how is Vishy now going to continue the position? Well, knight f7, he can continue the plan that he had made. He has 4 minutes 15 seconds. Marc Andria has 3 minutes 42 seconds. But Vishy changes his plans. He goes f5. Wow, just because the knight came back, he played f5. And now if you take here, then knight takes f5, and this is slightly weakened. And then the queen could come in and put pressure here. So that's the reason why Marc Andria might not want to take that pawn on e4, on f5. So he started to think now. And one idea could be knight to g3, because that would control here and also attack the f5 pawn. Maybe Anand wants to go f4. And then you could take, and come back. Well, he goes the other direction. He goes knight c3 instead of knight g3. And you can see there Vishy Anand now contemplating on his next move. He plays f4. Anand's time management is simply epic. It's also because he can spot good moves pretty quickly. And that's the reason why he's very, very good at blitz and rapid. E takes f4 taken. He has 4 minutes on the clock. His opponent has 2 minutes 52 seconds. Now white has a very strong central pawns here. He goes d4, but now Vishy says, I also have the king side pawns rolling, and he wants to go g4, maybe take with the knight. Later on the queen can swing over. It could become something. It could become an attack. g5 has been played. e5 played. Wow, this is interesting now because the knight can go to e4. He plays his pawn to g4. The game has become very sharp. H takes, knight takes g4. Now, knight e4 seems like a logical move. Also because if you try to jump in with knight to e3, then after rook f2, you have to constantly worry about knight f6 check. But he makes a mistake. He goes queen h4. That is not a good idea here. I think Marc Andria just got a bit worried about Vishy's aggressive intentions and now has played there. Vishy quickly takes, but now can Anand spot the next move? This is very good. Oh, he finds it in an instant, in a jiffy. c5, what a move this is, because he hits the structure. And once d takes c5, rook e5 is coming, and you can see from Anand's body language that he realizes that he's got the advantage here. c5 is an excellent move, and Marc Andria now in big trouble because he cannot hold this structure intact. You know, if he goes rook d1, there is knight e3 business happening. If he comes back knight f3, then c takes d4 could be hanging. He's trying to think. So knight f3, you take cd, knight d4, and then e5 hangs. Well, he takes on c5, but now Anand simply takes on e5. Vishy does not even think. The time difference is 2 minutes. Wow. Knight takes, and now rook takes c5. So you can see Anand is already a pawn up. And now we'll start the difficult part of conversion. You can see Marc Andria now knows that Vishy has the edge. His position is not at all great. Rook takes c5, 1 minute 15 seconds for Marc Andria, 3 minutes 45 seconds for Vishy Anand. Vishy looks confident, but generally converting such positions is not easy in Blitz chess. He brings his rook to e1, trying to get into e7. Let's learn from Vishy how to convert such positions, how to keep his cool. First, look at him taking his time here, seeing that the threat is rook e7. What to do? Jumps in with the knight. Rook comes up to f2, takes another pawn. Rook d2, attacks the bishop now. This bishop is hanging. Do you move this bishop? Do you defend it with rook f7? He plays bishop g4. And now the knight comes to h2, attacking the bishop on g4. And he simply brings it back to f5, attacking the c2 pawn. You'll see that with simple moves, Anand has got further dominating position here. And Marc Andria now brings his knight to f1. Now, should we be tempted to take another pawn on c2? It looks tempting, but then the rooks can come over to e7 and try and create some play. Well, the engines prefer knight takes c2. Let's see what the human decision is. He wants to take the pawn. He stops in his tracks. Vishy has 3 minutes there, and look at the way he's disciplined himself over the years. The way he has disciplined is that he sees the move, but then he stops to think. He takes on f1. Maybe the more human move here. He wants to actually say to his opponent that 2 pawns are good enough. I don't need a third pawn for myself. Rook c5 played. And Marc Andria brings his king up. You can see the way he's moving his pieces is exuding confidence. Rook e2. But such tricks will not work against a 5-time world champion who's actually not just better but has 2 minutes extra on the clock. King g7. He wants to play his king up to f3. He plays it. The f4 pawn is under some pressure. Bishop goes back, threatening check. King comes up. King comes down to f2. And will Vishy now start pushing his pawns? Yes, first a5. And again, you will see the way in which he pushes his pawns is that he wants to create this one chain where there's only one. So he'll put his pawn on b6, and then there will be one weakness on c7. Because it could have been tempting to even push b5. Now the knight comes to a4, attacking the rook. And Anand comes back. The knight comes to c3 and he plays rook c5. Again, a trick of the masters from the past that you repeat and then change to show your opponent who's in control of the position. Rook comes to f5 and Vishy may want to liquidate this f4 pawn now by playing f3. That could be his idea. Marc Andria has just 10 seconds left and he's not at all looking at the position. He's thinking in some other direction. Takes, rook takes, king g2. He started to move very quickly there. Rook comes to f5 and by the way, it's not a 3-second increment. It's a 3-second delay. So that means that now his opponent cannot move beyond the time he has on the clock. Yeah, 8 seconds is what he has. It's not going to be easy. c7 pawn is under pressure. Rook e7. He pushes his pawn to c3 and Vishy moves the bishop away and the knight has to move off. King comes in. Knight to d4. Pushes the pawn. Rook gives a check. You can see how Marc Andria is playing very quickly. And he's trying to put pressure on Vishy. Rook d2 check. King c4 does seem possible, but then there's rook d6 business to take care of. And so Vishy calmly comes back. King f4. And he plays his king to b5. Pushes his pawn to c4. It's a check. Now, do you take this pawn? Then it's a blunder because rook d7 and knight e5 check. So he goes back, knight e5 check, king c7, and then white seems to have gotten some bit of play here. b3. How is Vishy going to untangle a bit here? He goes bishop d7. He's waiting for the timing. Rook comes into x6. He brings his rook back, and now the bishop is improved. A rook endgame is welcome here for Vishy because the knight is very well positioned in the center. Knight to g4. He plays his rook to d6, offering a trade. Rook e2. And moves in. Rook to d3, attacking the b3 pawn. Rook b2. And king g5. He pushes his pawn to a4. And now it's all over because now he's created a c4 weakness. That falls. a4 is weak. I think he'll take it. First king c6. Again, very careful. Not allowing any check on d5. Knight g8. Looks at the position calmly without trying to rush. Takes check here. Look at the time management of Vishy. He has 1 minute, 50 seconds. Check here. Pushes the pawn forward. And there's nothing that can be done here. Rook f2. Places rook to a1. Check. King b5. Another check. King c4. The knight went to f6. And now just cutting the king off. Knight g4. Check. And Clinical takes the knight and the 2 pawns win. What a game by Vishy Anand. Rightly, he was called the Lightning Kid.